Hello. Okay, we're going to be reading chapter 1 of the Kybalion today. Just let me express a couple of disclaimers. I apologize in advance for mispronouncing any names or words. Also, this isn't necessarily a straight reading. I may interject once in a while, depending on what thoughts pop out while I read this. I may not, but I'm just letting you know. If you're looking for a straight reading of the Kybalion, this is not it. Okay, so here's the edition I have. It's quite a big, large book. Okay, whew. And just like episode 1, where I read the introduction, prior to beginning the reading, I did go over briefly of some number synchronicities that you may be noticing, and such as 222 and 122, ones and twos. And before I hit the record button, I saw 1212. And just now, as I was speaking to you on the timer, I saw 122. So ones and twos may be very significant for you at this time. Okay. Let's read the Kybalion chapter 1. The Hermetic philosophy. The lips of wisdom are closed except to the ears of understanding. From old Egypt have come the fundamental esoteric and occult teachings which have so strongly influenced the philosophies of all races, nations, and peoples for several thousand years. Egypt, the home of the pyramids and the Sphinx, was the birthplace of the hidden wisdom and mystic teachings. From her secret doctrine, all nations have borrowed. India, Persia, Chaldea, Medea, China, Japan, Assyria, ancient Greece and Rome, and other ancient countries partook liberally at the feast of knowledge, which the hierophants and masters of the land of Isis so freely provided for those who came prepared to partake of the great store of mystic and occult lore which the masterminds of that ancient land had gathered together. In ancient Egypt dwelt the great adepts and masters who have never been surpassed, and who seldom have been equaled during the centuries that have taken their processional flight since the days of the great Hermes. In Egypt was located the great lodge of lodges of the mystics. At the doors of her temples entered the neophytes who afterward, as hierophants, adepts, and masters, traveled to the four corners of the earth, carrying with them the precious knowledge which they were ready, anxious, and willing to pass on to those who were ready to receive the same. All students of the occult recognize the debt that they owe to these venerable masters of that ancient land. But among these great masters of ancient Egypt there once dwelt one of whom masters hailed as the Master of Masters. This man, if man indeed he was, dwelt in Egypt in the earliest days. He was known as Hermes Trismegistus. He was the father of the occult wisdom, the founder of astrology, the discoverer of alchemy. The details of his life story are lost to history, owing to the lapse of the years, though several of the ancient countries disputed with each other in their claims to the honor of having furnished his birthplace, and this thousands of years ago. The date of his sojourn in Egypt, in that his last incarnation on this planet, is not now known, but it has been fixed at the early days of the oldest dynasties of Egypt, long before the days of Moses. The best authorities regard him as a contemporary of Abraham, and some of the Jewish traditions go so far as to claim that Abraham acquired a portion of his mystic knowledge from Hermes himself. As the years rolled by after his passing from this plane of life, tradition recording that he lived 300 years in the flesh, the Egyptians deified Hermes and made him one of their gods under the name of Thoth. Years after, the people of ancient Greece also made him one of their many gods, calling him Hermes, the god of wisdom. The Egyptians revered his memory for many centuries, yes, tens of centuries, calling him the scribe of the gods, and bestowing upon him distinctively his ancient title, Trismegistus, which means the thrice great, the great great, the greatest great, etc. In all the ancient lands, the name of Hermes Trismegistus was revered, the name being synonymous with the fount of wisdom. Even to this day, we use the term Hermetic in the sense of secret, sealed so that nothing can escape, etc. And this by reason of the fact that the followers of Hermes always observed the principle of secrecy in their teachings. They did not believe in casting pearls before swine, but rather held to the teaching milk for babes, meat for strong men, both of which maxims are familiar to readers of the Christian scriptures, but both of which had been used by the Egyptians for centuries before the Christian era. And this policy of careful dissemination of the truth has always characterized the Hermetics, even unto the present day. The Hermetic teachings are to be found in all lands, among all religions, but never identified with any particular country, nor with any particular religious sect. This because of the warning of the ancient teachers against allowing the secret doctrine to become crystallized into creed. The wisdom of this caution is apparent to all students of history. The ancient occultism of India and Persia degenerated and was largely lost owing to the fact that the teachers became priests and so mixed theology with the philosophy. The result being that the occultism of India and Persia has been gradually lost amidst the mass of religious superstition, cults, creeds, and, quote, gods. So it was with ancient Greece and Rome. So it was with the Hermetic teachings of the Gnostics and early Christians, which were lost at the time of Constantine, whose iron hand smothered philosophy with the blanket of theology, losing to the Christian church that which was its very essence and spirit, and causing it to grope throughout several centuries before it found the way back to its ancient faith. The indications apparent to all careful observers in this 20th century being that the church is now struggling to get back to its ancient mystic teachings. But there were always a few faithful souls who kept alive the flame, tending it carefully and not allowing its light to become extinguished. And thanks to these staunch hearts and fearless minds, we have the truth still with us. But it is not found in books to any great extent. It has been passed along from master to student, from initiate to hierophant, from lip to ear. When it was written down at all, its meaning was veiled in terms of alchemy and astrology, so that only those possessing the key could read it aright. This was made necessary in order to avoid the persecutions of the theologians of the Middle Ages, who fought the secret doctrine with fire and sword, stake, gibbet, and cross. Even to this day, there will be found but few reliable books on the Hermetic philosophy, although there are countless references to it in many books written on various phases of occultism. And yet, the Hermetic philosophy is the only master key which will open all the doors of the occult teachings. In the early days, there was a compilation of certain basic Hermetic doctrines passed on from teacher to student, which was known as the Kybalion, the exact significance and meaning of the term having been lost for several centuries. This teaching, however, is known to many to whom it has descended, from mouth to ear, on and on throughout the centuries. Its precepts have never been written down or printed, so far as we know. It was merely a collection of maxims, axioms, and precepts which were non-understandable to outsiders, but which were readily understood by students after the axioms, maxims, and precepts had been explained and exemplified by the Hermetic initiates to their neophytes. These teachings really constituted the basic principles of the art of Hermetic alchemy, which, contrary to the general belief, dealt in the mastery of mental forces rather than material elements, the transmutation of one kind of mental vibrations into others, instead of changing one kind of metal into another. The legends of the philosopher's stone, which would turn base metal into gold, was an allegory relating to Hermetic philosophy, readily understood by all students of true Hermeticism. In this little book, of which this is the first lesson, we invite our students to examine into the Hermetic teachings as set forth in the Kybalion, and as explained by ourselves, humble students of the teachings who, while bearing the title of initiates, are still students at the feet of Hermes, the Master. We herein give you many of the maxims, axioms, and precepts of the Kybalion, accompanied by explanations and illustrations which we deem likely to render the teachings more easily comprehended by the modern student, particularly as the original text is purposely veiled in obscure terms. The original maxims, axioms, and precepts of the Kybalion are printed herein in italics, the proper credit being given. Our own work is printed in the regular way in the body of the work. We trust that the many students to whom we now offer this little work will derive as much benefit from the study of its pages as have the many who have gone on before, treading the same path to mastery throughout the centuries that have passed since the time of Hermes Trismegistus, the Master of Masters, the Great. In the words of the Kybalion, quote, "Where fall the footsteps of the Master, the ears of those ready for his teaching open wide," end quote, the Kybalion. Another quote, "When the ears of the student are ready to hear, then cometh the lips to fill them with wisdom," the Kybalion. So that according to the teachings, the passage of this book to those ready for the instruction will attract the attention of such as are prepared to receive the teaching. And likewise, when the pupil is ready to receive the truth, then will this little book come to him or her. Such is the law. The Hermetic principle of cause and effect, in its aspect of the law of attraction, will bring lips and ear together, pupil and book in company. So mote it be. Okay. I underlined a few things, but please feel free to contribute your thoughts in the comments. And what stood out to you, what resonated with you. There is a repeating of what we read in the introduction about how the master will appear when the student is ready. Okay, some things that I underlined while I was reading. Okay. Principle of secrecy. There's mention of persecution, secrecy, a lot of word of mouth, passing on wisdom from mouth to ear, word of mouth. That makes me think of how a lot of wisdom is passed on from generation to generation through stories, through storytelling, by using the throat chakra. Way before writing, I guess, was invented or discovered, wisdom, knowledge was passed on through word of mouth by using the throat chakra, through oratory measures and means. The power of words, the power of your voice, that makes me think. That's the power of your voice. The power of vibration, now that makes me think, right? We create sounds. They're vibrations. They have a frequency. It is the frequency, not so much the words themselves, that make an impact. Okay, let's return to this energy of secrecy. Okay, even to this day, we use the term hermetic in the sense of secret, sealed so that nothing can escape. And this by reason of the fact that the followers of Hermes always observed the principle of secrecy in their teachings. This also makes me think. Now they go on to say, they did not believe in, quote, casting pearls before swine, end quote, but rather held to the teaching, quote, milk for babes, end quote. Again, returning to the philosophy that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So this makes me think, okay, readiness, being prepared. This is about vibration. Being vibrationally aligned to receive, to being vibrationally ready to receive the teachings, the Hermetic teachings. We go through different experiences in our human lives, experience a spectrum of vibrations, and how we view the world, perceive the world, understand things is dependent on our vibration. That is why this makes me think. All of these teachings, all the knowledge that is available from ancient times, let's just focus on that. All that knowledge, it's already available. And little by little, it's being, those, quote, secrets are unfolding. Based on the vibration. Based on vibrational readiness. Okay, let's continue. Okay, and what else did I underline? Careful dissemination of the truth. Yes, returning to what I already said. And this policy of careful dissemination of the truth has always characterized the Hermetics even unto the present day. The Hermetic teachings are to be found in all lands of... Okay, let me skip this because of the warning. I underline warning of the ancient teachers against allowing the secret doctrine to become crystallized into creed. The wisdom of this caution is apparent to all students of history. Some of the cause and effect. The ancient occultism of India and Persia degenerated and was largely lost, owing to the fact that the teachers became priests and so mixed theology with the philosophy. The result being that the occultism of India and Persia has been gradually lost amidst the mass of religious superstition. So it became, one of the reasons also, to preserve the teachings, to veil much of the teachings in secrecy. Well, that's it. To preserve, to keep, to maintain its pristineness, so that the wisdom may not be tainted, be distilled, and eventually degenerate. And the word lost was mentioned more than once. Again, preservation. Now I'm thinking self-preservation. It's an act of self-preservation. Of understanding human nature, the light and shadow, and what can happen, the potentiality of the misuse and abuse of information, of knowledge, sacred knowledge, and history has shown what can happen. And it says here, yes, but there were always a few faithful souls who kept alive the flame, tending it carefully and not allowing its light to become extinguished. Keeping the flame alive. And thanks to these staunch hearts and fearless minds, bravery, courage, takes a lot of spiritual strength. To hold on to what you believe in, to have faith. When the possibility of persecution is present. And so a lot of things, a lot of information, as they say, it was written in code, veiled in terms of alchemy and astrology, so that only those possessing the key could read it right. The key, what does that make me think at this point, having only read like the intro and the first chapter? I mean, this is a second read through for me. I did read the Kybalion years ago. Still a student, always a student. Okay, what's the key? The key could read it aright. Again, it has Everything is about vibration, right? As Nikola Tesla said, and I have this quote here, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Possessing the key could read it aright. Yes, alignment, vibrational alignment, and also intuition. Following your intuition, your inner knowing. To look beyond surfaces. Knowing that there is more than what is on the surface. Okay, and here they mention the persecution here. This was made necessary in order to avoid the persecutions of the theologians of the Middle Ages, who fought the secret doctrine with fire and sword, stake, gibbet, and cross. Okay, what else did I underline here? Okay, the mention of alchemy, the art of Hermetic alchemy, which, contrary to the general belief, dealt in the mastery of mental forces, mastering your mind, mastering your thoughts. And when we go on to the next chapter, they will be mentioning the first principle, the principle of mentalism. The all is mind, the universe is mental, the Kybalion. This is a mind game. Let me start again. These teachings really constituted the basic principles of the art of Hermetic alchemy, which, contrary to the general belief, dealt in the mastery of mental forces rather than material elements, the transmutation of one kind of mental vibrations into others, instead of the changing of one kind of metal into another. Transmuting denser energies into higher vibrational ones, like love, love, peace, joy. Okay, let's see, what else? Okay, I underlined purposely veiled. We kind of went through that already. What else? Yeah, path to mastery. And yeah, ready to receive the truth, yes. Being vibrationally ready. And that varies from person to person. Okay. Hope that made sense. Who knows? But let's just go with it, man. Go with the flow. The next video we'll go over chapter 2. Let's see. Wow, almost half an hour, but let's have some fun. Let's pull a card or two. Let's see what comes out. We have letting go, leaving the past behind. 8 of Cups. Makes me think of transmutation, right? Knight of Pentacles, goal-oriented, consistent, diligent, making steady progress. You're a reliable soul. That's what I'm hearing in my mind. You're a reliable soul, steady. Spiritual steadiness. Five of Swords, confrontation, grudges, disloyalty. That makes me think about the persecution energy. Okay, we have collaboration, critique, group work, Three of Pentacles. Queen of Cups, intuitive, compassionate, sensitive, yeah. Transmutation. Turning dense energies, transmuting dense energies. Into spiritual nuggets of gold. We also have the Ten of Pentacles, community, legacy, wealth, inheritance. So we have the Ten of Pentacles, and we have the Three of Pentacles, collaboration, critique, group work, under Ten of Pentacles, community, legacy, wealth, inheritance. You're building a community, a network of like-minded souls, compassionate souls, those who have done the inner work. This is happening steadily. Looking at the Knight of Pentacles. Goal-oriented, consistent, diligent. The horse, however, is standing still. It is not rushing. It's not rushing the process. Sometimes, despite what we see in the physical, there's plenty happening behind the scenes. The conscious mind might try to deceive you, try to convince you that progress is not being made at all. That's your past self, your fear-based self that you have already let go of. With compassion, understanding that everything that, all those experiences that you went through were stepping stones, lessons to build spiritual and mental strength. Okay, we'll end it here. Six of Wands, victory, recognition, validation. I almost read validation as vibration. That's what it is. Your vibration has transformed. And there's another horse. I'm noticing another horse. And this horse is white. The horse on the Knight of Pentacles is black. Balance. Yin-yang symbol, masculine and feminine energies, balanced. Okay, I will end the reading there. Thank you so much. Take care.